Your mom disappeared. Who's going to pay the bill? Vanessa's screech cut through the hum of the upscale steakhouse. I heard it clearly as I pushed open the heavy glass doors of the restaurant and stepped into the cool evening air. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. I just got into the Uber I had called 3 minutes earlier. For the last 2 hours, I had sat at a table with 15 of Vanessa's friends nursing a single glass of tap water and a side salad. Meanwhile, my daughter-in-law and her guests ordered tomahawk steaks, bottomless margaritas, and a 3-tiered custom dessert. My son Liam sat next to her, nodding along as she loudly declared, "Grace is treating us tonight. She loves spoiling her favorite daughter-in-law." I hadn't agreed to that. I hadn't even been asked. As the Uber pulled away, my phone started vibrating. Liam's name flashed on the screen. I swiped to silence it. Let them figure out how to cover an $800 tab. For 3 years, I had been their silent ATM. I paid for groceries when Liam was between projects, covered their car insurance, and funded Vanessa's esthetician appointments. Not tonight. I was 64, widowed, and exhausted. When I got home, I didn't go to sleep. I put on my favorite comfortable sweater, made a pot of chamomile tea, and sat in my armchair in the living room. I placed a small cardboard box on the coffee table. Inside were the spare keys to my house, Liam's old mail, and Vanessa's expensive straightener she always left in my bathroom to mark her territory. I sipped my tea. The digital clock on the wall glowed 1:15 a.m. They would be here soon. They always came when they wanted something, and tonight they wanted blood. Sure enough, headlights swept across my living room curtains. The front door rattled, then the deadbolt clicked open. Liam still had a key. I hadn't changed the locks yet, but that was on my list for tomorrow. They stormed into the hallway. Vanessa's mascara was smudged and her face was red. Liam looked frantic. He flipped the light switch, gasping when he saw me sitting quietly in the armchair. "Are you insane?" Vanessa shrieked, throwing her designer clutch onto my sofa. "Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? We had to pool money from 4 different people to pay the waiter." I set my teacup down. "I imagine it was very embarrassing, Vanessa. Ordering food you can't afford usually is." Liam paced the floor. "Mom, you ruined her birthday. You just walked out. I tried to use the card you linked to my phone last year, but it was declined. Did the bank freeze your account?" I smiled warmly. "No, I canceled that card on Tuesday." Liam stopped pacing. He stared at me, his mouth slightly open. "You what?" "I canceled it," I repeated. "You are 32 years old. You both make a decent living. My financial support ended tonight." Vanessa scoffed, crossing her arms. "This is because I wouldn't let you pick the restaurant, isn't it? You're throwing a tantrum over pasta versus steak." "This isn't a tantrum," I replied, gesturing to the cardboard box on the table. "This is an eviction. Take your things. Leave my key on the table." Liam looked at the box, then back at me. "Mom, it's 2:00 a.m. Stop being dramatic. We're staying in the guest room tonight. We're too exhausted to drive back across town." He grabbed Vanessa's hand and moved toward the hallway. "If you walk down that hall, Liam," I warned, keeping my voice perfectly level, "you will find the guest room door locked and my friend Sarah's large dog sleeping in the corridor." Liam froze. He knew Sarah's dog, a massive German Shepherd mix. I had asked Sarah to bring him over earlier that afternoon, anticipating this exact scenario. A low growl rumbled from the shadows of the hallway, confirming my statement. "You brought a dog into the house," Vanessa snapped, stepping back. "I'm allergic." "Then you shouldn't stay," I answered. Liam dragged a hand over his face. "Mom, why are you doing this? What happened to you?" "I started paying attention," I said. It hadn't been a sudden shift. It started a month ago when I came home from grocery shopping to find Vanessa reorganizing my kitchen cabinets. She threw away my vintage baking tins because they didn't match her minimalist aesthetic. When I asked her to stop, she rolled her eyes and told me I was hoarding. Liam stood by the fridge drinking my orange juice and muttered, "Just let her do it, Mom. It keeps her happy." That was the day I realized I wasn't a mother to them anymore. I was a convenience, I was a free storage unit, a free bank, and a free housekeeper. I pushed the cardboard box closer to the edge of the table. Key, now. Liam unclipped the spare key from his carabiner and tossed it onto the wood. It landed with a sharp clink. Fine. If you want to be alone, be alone. Don't expect us to call you tomorrow. I don't, I assured him. They stormed out. The heavy door slammed shut, vibrating the picture frames on the wall. I sat in the silence of my own home, feeling the tension drain from my shoulders. The dog trotted out from the hallway, resting his heavy head on my knee. I gave him an ear scratch. The first battle was over. But I knew Liam and Vanessa. By morning, they would change their tactics. The next 2 weeks were incredibly quiet. Liam and Vanessa deployed their favorite weapon, the silent treatment. In the past, this would have destroyed me. I would have texted, apologized, and eventually sent a guilt-driven money transfer just to hear my son's voice. This time, I used the silence to my advantage. I called a locksmith on Monday morning. By noon, every lock on my doors and windows was new. I upgraded to a digital keypad for the front door, keeping the code strictly to myself. On Wednesday, I went to the bank. I moved all my savings from the joint account I had opened with Liam years ago when he was in college and needed emergency access into a private, high-yield account solely in my name. I felt a slight twinge of guilt as the teller stamped the paperwork, but then I remembered the $800 steak dinner. The guilt evaporated. On Saturday, my friend Sarah came over for coffee. We sat on the porch, enjoying the morning breeze. "Have you heard from him?" Sarah asked, sipping her dark roast. "Not a word," I replied. "It's been wonderful. I've finished 3 books and painted the guest bathroom." Sarah chuckled. "They think they're punishing you. Wait until they realize the ATM is actually closed." She was right. The silence broke exactly 18 days after the dinner. My phone buzzed while I was tending to my rose bushes. Liam's name appeared. I wiped the dirt from my hands, took a deep breath, and accepted the call. "Hey, Mom?" He greeted, his tone overly casual, not a hint of an apology. "Hello, Liam. So Vanessa and I were looking at our budget." He began clearing his throat. "And the HOA fees on our condo went up again. We're a little short for next month's mortgage. We need you to float us $1,000. Just until my bonus comes in." I pruned a dead leaf off a stem. "No." Silence stretched over the line. I could hear Liam breathing heavily. "What do you mean, no?" he finally asked. "Mom, we need this to avoid a late fee." "I mean, no, I will not give you $1,000, I stated simply. "My finances are no longer available to cover your lifestyle." "Are you still mad about the dinner?" Liam groaned. "We said we were sorry." "You didn't," I corrected. "Vanessa yelled at me and you demanded my credit card. But this isn't about dinner, Liam. This is about boundaries." I heard muffled whispering in the background. Vanessa was coaching him. "Look," Liam's voice grew sharp. "If you don't help us out, we can't come visit. We won't have gas money. And when we have kids, you won't be seeing them either if you treat us like this." There it was. The ultimate threat. Withholding future grandchildren. A month ago, that would have brought me to my knees. "That is your choice," I answered, keeping my voice steady despite the pinch in my chest. "I respect your decision." "Mom," he stammered clearly, thrown off balance. "While I have you on the phone," I interrupted, "you have a pop-up camper parked in my side yard. You haven't used it in 2 years. I'm landscaping that area. You have until Friday to move it, or I am selling it. You can't do that. It's mine. The title is in my name, Liam. I bought it. Friday at 5. I hung up. I didn't block his number, but I muted his notifications. I went back to my roses. The sun felt warm on my back. I had drawn the hardest line of my life, and the world hadn't ended. In fact, my garden looked brighter. But Friday was approaching, and I knew they wouldn't let the camper go without a fight. Friday arrived with a heavy downpour. I spent the morning baking bread and listening to the rain hit the roof. By 4 o'clock, the storm cleared, leaving the neighborhood smelling of wet asphalt and pine. At 4:45 p.m., a familiar SUV sped into my driveway, parking aggressively close to my flower beds. Liam and Vanessa jumped out. Liam stormed up the porch steps, drenched and scowling. I opened the door before he could knock. I kept the screen door locked between us. "Open the door, Mom," Liam demanded, rattling the handle. "It's freezing." "We can talk right here," I replied, crossing my arms. Vanessa marched up the steps, holding an umbrella she didn't need anymore. "This is ridiculous, Grace. You're acting like a teenager. We are here to get the camper." "Good." I nodded toward the side yard. "The hitch is clear. You can attach it to your SUV. Liam rubbed the back of his neck. "I didn't bring the towing gear. We're just here to tell you to leave it alone. I'll move it next spring when the weather is better." I shook my head. "That wasn't the arrangement. I told you Friday at 5. It is now 4:50. If it's not hitched and moving by 5, the buyer is coming tomorrow morning at 9. "Buyer?" Vanessa shrieked. "You actually listed it. That camper is ours. I paid $4,000 for it 3 years ago because Liam wanted to go off-grid." I reminded them calmly. "You used it once. It kills the grass and blocks my windows. It's going." "You're unbelievable," Liam sneered. "You care more about your stupid grass than your own son." "I care about my peace of mind," I corrected him. "You have 10 minutes. I stepped back and shut the solid wooden door. I locked it and watched through the peephole. They stood on the porch looking at the camper, realizing I wasn't bluffing. Through the thick glass, I watched them wave their arms. Liam pointed at the house, then at the side yard. Vanessa stomped her foot. Finally, they marched to the SUV, grabbed a rusty hitch from the trunk, and struggled in the mud to attach the camper. It took them 40 minutes. They were covered in dirt, soaked from the residual water on the canvas, and clearly furious. I stood at the window drinking my coffee, offering no towels, no help, and no hot tea. As they finally pulled out of the driveway, the heavy camper dragging down the back of their vehicle, the side yard looked instantly larger. The grass underneath was dead and yellow, but it was mine again. The next morning, I hired a landscaping company. I used the money from the canceled credit card budget to pay for a beautiful stone fire pit and 2 Adirondack chairs. Within a week, the ugly dead patch was transformed into a quiet retreat. My phone remained silent. Liam was officially furious, but the heavy, suffocating anxiety that used to follow his anger was gone. A month passed. The holidays were approaching. Thanksgiving had always been at my house. I cooked for 3 days, bought expensive wines for Vanessa, and cleaned up entirely by myself while they watched football. On November 1st, I booked a flight to Florida to spend the holiday with my sister. 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, the doorbell rang. I checked the camera. It was Liam standing alone on the porch holding a cheap grocery store pie. He looked sheepish. I unlocked the door but left the chain on. "Hello, Liam." "Hey, Mom." He sighed, looking down at his shoes. "Can I come in? We need to figure out the menu for Thursday." I looked at the pie, then at my son. "There is no menu, Liam." Liam blinked, confused. "What do you mean? You always do the turkey." "Vanessa already invited her parents over to our place, but we figured we'd bring them here since your dining room is bigger." He assumed my house was still his venue. He assumed my kitchen was still his catering service. I won't be here, I informed him. I'm spending Thanksgiving with your Aunt Carol in Florida. My flight is on Tuesday. His mouth opened, but nothing came out for a second. Florida. But what about us? We already told Vanessa's parents you were hosting. Then you will have to untell them, I replied smoothly. Or host them at your condo. Mom, you can't just leave. We don't have the money to buy all that food, and Vanessa doesn't know how to cook a turkey. Liam's voice rose, the familiar entitlement creeping back in. You're doing this just to punish us. I am doing this. It's because I want to see my sister, I corrected. I am not responsible for your holiday plans or your budget. So you're just abandoning your family, he demanded, stepping closer to the door. No, I am taking a vacation. The same way you and Vanessa took a vacation to Cabo last year while I stayed here and watched your cats for free. I unhooked the chain but didn't open the door any wider. I hope you have a nice Thanksgiving, Liam. Give Vanessa my regards. I started to close the door. Mom, wait! He panicked, jamming his foot in the doorway. We're completely broke. Vanessa maxed out her cards on clothes and my bonus got delayed. If you don't help us with the mortgage this month, we're going to get an eviction warning. I looked down at his expensive sneakers. I looked at the brand new smartwatch on his wrist. Move your foot, Liam, I commanded. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried a weight I hadn't possessed in years. He hesitated, then slowly pulled his foot back. You are not broke, I told him, looking directly into his eyes. You have a spending problem. You drive a car with a $700 monthly payment. Vanessa gets her hair colored every 4 weeks. You eat at restaurants 3 times a week. We deserve nice things. I work hard, Liam defended. You do, but you do not deserve them at my expense. For 3 years, I subsidized your luxury while I bought clothes on clearance and worried about my electricity bill. That arrangement is permanently canceled. Liam looked desperate. One more loan. $500. I swear I'll pay it back. You owe me over $8,000 in loans from the past 2 years, I reminded him. I know I will never see that money. I accept that. But I will not add another cent to the deficit. Vanessa is going to leave me if we lose the condo, he whispered, his shoulders slumping. I felt a pang of maternal instinct, a sudden urge to fix it. But I crushed it. Fixing his messes had only made him weak and made me resentful. If she leaves you over a financial setback, then you have a marriage problem, not a mortgage problem, I said gently. You are smart, Liam. You will figure it out. Sell the camper. Downsize the car. You're really not going to help me, he asked, staring at me like I was a stranger. I am helping you, I answered. I am finally letting you grow up. I closed the door. It clicked shut. The deadbolt slid into place with a satisfying thud. I walked to the kitchen, poured a fresh cup of coffee, and finally packed my bags. The Florida sun was intensely bright, reflecting off the calm turquoise water of the Gulf. I sat on my sister Carol's lanai, a glass of iced tea in my hand, listening to the seagulls overhead. My phone chimed on the small glass table. I glanced at the screen. It was a text from Liam. Happy Thanksgiving. Vanessa's parents brought a store-bought chicken. It was awful. Sold the camper for $2,000, putting it toward the mortgage. Guess I survived. I smiled. There was no "I miss you." There was no profound apology for the years of mistreatment. But there was progress. He had solved his own problem. I didn't reply immediately. I let the message sit there. A year ago, I would have replied instantly, praising him, offering to send a little extra just to reward his effort. Now I simply double-tap the message to heart. it acknowledging I saw it without opening the door to a full conversation. Carol walked out onto the lanai carrying a plate of fresh fruit. "Any drama from the kids?" she asked, sitting across from me. "No." I sighed, leaning back in my lounge chair. "Just an update. He sold the camper." "Good for him." Carol nodded. "And good for you for standing your ground. You look 10 years younger, Grace." I felt it too. The chronic pain in my neck had vanished. The anxiety that used to grip my chest every time my phone rang was completely gone. I hadn't needed a grand confrontation or a screaming match in the middle of the street. I had simply stopped participating in my own exploitation. I took back my keys, I closed my wallet, and I reclaimed my house. I picked up my iced tea, taking a long, refreshing sip. The bill was finally paid, and for the first time in years, the change belonged entirely to me. If there's one thing we can take away from Grace's story, it's that walking away from disrespect isn't selfish, it's survival. We often trick ourselves into believing that being a good parent or a supportive family member means sacrificing our own peace of mind just to keep everyone else comfortable. But the reality is, you can't buy respect, and you can't fix someone's entitlement by continuing to fund it. Grace didn't need a massive screaming showdown to win. She didn't need to play dirty. She just needed to realize her own worth, close her wallet, and let the silence do the heavy lifting. Sometimes stepping back isn't giving up on your loved ones. It's just letting them face the real world on their own 2 feet. And more importantly, it's about choosing yourself when no one else will. Have you ever had to draw a hard line in the sand with someone you love? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments down below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more real, relatable stories about people taking back their power, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell icon so you never miss a new video. It really helps the channel grow. And I appreciate you hanging out with me today. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next one.